Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So Tarek and I've got a very exciting and very fun episode for you guys this evening, because just yesterday the Nintendo 64 core on MiSTer FPGA was updated into Update All, giving you all these new fixes I've been showing you guys off in videos. Additionally, we've received a few more patches and some sound improvements, and now 100% of the games that were on the Nintendo 64 are playable and completable on the FPGA core. Some games may still exhibit a little bit of weirdness, and that may be patched up in the future, but now every single game you would want to play will work in the core. You can see the credits scroll and everything is going to be 100% fundamentally enjoyable, and that is obviously a massive milestone. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But additionally, in this new core, you're going to see an update all that's going to comprise all of the different fixes I've been showing you in test cores. There's also going to be improvements on the sound side of things, reducing and eliminating some popping that could come in the core. It was very rare and honestly only a few people had commented on it, but in certain circumstances you could get audio popping coming in on games like Jet Force Gemini. Now with the new core, that's basically been diminished to the point where I haven't seen a single pop or click in any of the footage I listened to and watched for this video, and that is awesome. Even if those pops and clicks were very small problems in an otherwise amazing core, Robert has gone back in, taken a look at things, and patched it up. So go ahead and listen, and I'll be right back. Sounds incredible to my ears, but let me know what you think down below. Now the best part is this is no longer a manual install. Just go ahead and run update all. This commit was added to the MiSTer repo as of 8.18, so as long as you have the core that's marked 8.18, everything you see in this video will be on your MiSTer FPGA. Now do be aware some of the games still require patches and you're going to have to patch those. I'll tell you which games those are in a few minutes, and I will even go over the process to patch them so I know you can go ahead and be able to enjoy them again. But honestly, even these small sound improvements to games we already had working are worth checking out alone, and you get so many other games that are just going to run on the core with this new version. We thought core development was done in March of this year, but it's definitely restarted in earnest, and you're seeing a lot of fun improvements. If you play Jet Force Gemini today, you'll be able to play it on the core with a patch, and you're going to get a lot better sound and be able to enjoy the game 100%. Now moving on to Knife Edge, a game I talked about in the last video and said unfortunately it played but didn't really work well. There was a speed issue in which the game would actually end up running too fast, the same thing we saw with Batman Beyond. Well, RuleSet went in, created a patch, and now this is another game you can play exactly as intended to on real hardware on your MiSTer. I'm not saying that there's going to be a ton of people out there hankering to play some Knife Edge. It is a very strange game that plays almost like a first-person shooter as far as a light gun game is concerned, even though the Nintendo 64 never had a light gun peripheral. And I'm not here to say Knife Edge is some sort of hidden gem and you should all be excited that it runs on the core. I'm here to tell you that it is an improvement on the patch, and you're going to be able to actually be able to play the game. I would say it was playable before, but it definitely has seen improvements, so go ahead and patch that. You'll be totally fine. And speaking of patches, let's go over what the core makes work without patches and what requires the patch. You'll see here, and I'll leave a link to the description below, there is a forum post on the MiSTer FPGA forums, and you're going to see that Conker's Bad Fur Day and Gauntlet Legends have the fixes within the new core, so you can go ahead and run the retail versions of the game with no patches and you will be totally fine. And obviously that is going to be spectacular. Conker was the first game of this entire new roster of titles made playable in the core, first by a patch from RuleSet and then with a core improvement by Robert FPGA Zoom Spas. So it really has been a tag team achievement getting something like Conker's Bad Fur Day playable, and now within the core that's just going to be something you can do without having to worry about patching the game. People have played through it since then, it's 100% playable, no one's really frozen anything whatsoever, so you can just sit down and start playing Conker's Bad Fur Day exactly as you would expect. Now before you ask, I'm not sure about the uncensored patch for the game. I haven't heard anyone beating that yet because it is a different version technically. So if you want to play around with the uncensored version on the current core, try it and leave me a comment telling me whether or not you froze it, because I do need to get some user reports in so I can better understand understand what's going on, because most people have just been testing the retail version of the game because that is the official version. But today, Conker's Bad Fur Day and update all, no patch required, no manual install required. It's going to be the same thing for Gauntlet Legends as well. There was a patch to get the voices back in the game because there was a timing issue that would cause the voices to not play. Now in the update all version of the core from the 18th of this month, you can just go ahead and load up Gauntlet Legends. It'll run 100% fine. You can get 4 players in and the speed's going to be good. And just so you know, there will be a Turbo Core update coming out as well. Robert said on MiSTer Discord that it'll probably come next weekend, so be on the lookout for that. At this point in time, the Turbo Core has not been updated. It is just the stock core. Now, games like Jet Force, Gemini, Resident Evil 2, Polaris Snowcross, Batman Beyond, Knife Edge, and Rugrats in Paris are all going to require patches. And speaking of Rugrats in Paris, that was a game in the last video I said still had freezing issues and was not 100% playable. Now those freezes have been fixed and you can play the game if you want. Again, it's not like there's a ton of people out there that were heartbroken that Rugrats in Paris wasn't a playable title from start to finish, but we're really talking about the accomplishment of getting 100% of the games completable in the core. Same thing is going to be for Resident Evil 2. You need a patch for this one, but multiple people have beaten both campaigns and there's been no issue whatsoever. So basically 100% of the retail games for Nintendo 64 now can be played start to finish and beaten in the core. There are still some fixes that need to be made, but you're going to be able to enjoy each and every one of them. And as far as Resident Evil 2 is concerned, there's one area in which a texture can go wrong for half a second, but otherwise no one's really noticed anything about the game except some minor slowdown in areas that you wouldn't usually see it. And who knows, that may be improved in the future. And Batman Beyond, another game that is now playable with a patch. Definitely not one of the Nintendo 64's best games, but we're talking about the massive accomplishment that is 100% beatability in the retail Nintendo 64 library. There's still a few titles out there that'll run a little bit too fast or a little bit too slow and still need to be talked about and basically patched up potentially, but honestly the fact that this core made by one person and the patches made by a second person have achieved 100% retail compatibility and you can play each game from start to finish is massive. Now something like Duck Dodgers is going to be playable from start to finish, but the audio on the cutscenes is going to desync a little bit, so there is still a timing issue in there that could be looked at. There are still going to be instances in which the core is going to do something slightly different than real Nintendo 64 hardware, but for the most part it is insanely accurate. And you'll see here there's even a patch for Mario Kart 64 on the Turbo Core just to fix a little bit of the speed there because it is upclocked on the CPU. So if you download this N64 core patches.zip and you'll see there it's dated yesterday the 18th, you're going to have all of the different patches for the games. Some are still in there even though you don't need them, but you'll find every single patch here for the game. Something like Jet Force Gemini, you'll see there we have it for the PAL version, the NTSC version, as well as the Japanese version. So depending on which one you want to play, you'll patch accordingly. And I will leave a link to this web patcher down below as well, but it is very simple to use. All you're going to do is you're going to see that ROM box at the top. You're going to choose the file you're patching, which is going to be the game. So go ahead and click choose file there. This is an old example where I was patching Conker's Bad Fur Day, but the procedure is still the same. Just remember, you no longer need a patch for Conker. So you choose the ROM in .z64 format, and then you go ahead and choose the corresponding patch for the game you're trying to patch. Just go ahead and double click it, it will open up in the web patcher, and go ahead and save it as whatever you want. You'll see it's in a .z64 format, and it'll dump it out into your downloads folder. Just add that to the Nintendo 64 game folder on MiSTer FPGA. And don't forget, Battle for Naboo is another game that's been fixed in core, just like Conker that you've seen before, so you don't need a patch for this one, but again, it's another title that we were able to say maybe a month ago became playable and beatable on MiSTer FPGA. So this is just an awesome day. Over the weekend, you got a new core and update all, comprising all of the different fixes that Robert has installed in the core and tested over on MiSTer FPGA Discords. And I know a lot of you aren't the type that are going to install those test cores manually onto your MiSTer and play around with them. Everyone just keeps saying they're going to wait for update all, so you don't have to wait any longer. Update your MiSTer and you're going to get that brand new core coming down. Just remember, as I've gone over in the video, only some of the games are fixed by the core, the other games are fixed by the patches within the core. So go ahead and patch those titles and you will be 100% good to go. But that is a massive achievement. Every single retail Nintendo 64 game can be played and completed on the core. There are no instances of freezing that are going to affect you. There's still a handful of games that exhibit exhibit some odd behavior, but 99.5% of everything is going to be extremely close to real hardware, and that's amazing. Short of that, we are done. I'll see you guys with the next update. Bye-bye.